Hi, my name is Andrew Kinnear. I'm the founder of Freebruary. Thanks for joining us for this limited interview series with entrepreneurs from across Canada. I hope you enjoy it.
Hey, my name is Marc, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Susgrainable.
Marc, thanks for being a part of this today. It's great to have you and your brand a part of Freebruary. Tell me a bit about where you are right now. You look like you're at a facility full of product.
Not at a facility, at a home office, just
Oh,
because
home office.
we do a bunch of interviews and stuff like that. So we always like to have, and this is actually because of the pandemic, we set up this case because we were starting to ship through e-commerce from home. And so we have like 24 of everything at home just so that it's easy and we don't have to go into the facility just to put together 2 or 3 orders sometimes.
That makes sense. That sounds a lot easier than what I've got because it's all in frozen storage. So when I need samples, I have to drive to Brampton.
Yeah, we were in we had fresher product before the pandemic, and then we pivoted into shelf stable, which pluses and minuses of everything. I think every
Yeah,
food business owner starts to learn that.
for sure. Well, tell me a bit about Susgrainable, the brand, and also the products that you have in your lineup.
Yeah, so Susgrainable, the 3 second pitch I always give everybody is we turn beer waste into tasty, easy to make baking mixes,
Awesome.
which gets a lot of attention. But it's actually not waste. So I think consumers are really waking up to how much food is actually being thrown out. This all started because I have a background in kinesiology. I became an exercise physiologist. I ended up working for about 3 years with diabetics, and I just learned a lot about how they ended up getting diabetes. So diabetes is really a lifestyle disease. It's a combination of not enough exercise and improper diet. And it's mainly because there's so much sugar put in our diets, but it's also at the same time, something that isn't talked about as much is that we've taken out a ton of fiber.
Mm.
So fast forward, I was always gravitating towards the business side of every job I had. And so I decided to jump off and do an MBA, and I wanted to make sure it was focused on sustainability. So I came out to the West Coast, did it at UBC, met another person from the beer industry, and he talked about how beer byproduct is a huge problem for them. They produce so much of it because all they need is the sugar, and they don't want the fiber, protein, and minerals. Meanwhile, my background with like the nutrition side and exercise physiology, I'm like, okay, so this is everything that I was trying to get the diabetics to eat. So I'm like, if we can create a tasty product, we might have something. So yeah, we created a bunch of iterations, and it became more than a school project, obviously. And then Susgrainable was born, and it's just kind of snowballed from there.
And to be clear, when you talk about diabetics, you're talking about type 2 diabetes.
I'm talking about type 2 diabetes. Yeah. Type
Okay.
1 is like, yeah, I
Very
won't get into health.
Yeah,
So.
very different. Just the way that you said it was a lifestyle disease. Like people with type 1, it's not a lifestyle. It's different.
True, true, very much. And it's metabolic conditions. And it's like, even though I say a lifestyle disease, I think like consumers don't even have the choice anymore because there's such a lack of transparency in the food industry right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, yeah, as much as I call it that, I still don't think consumers are to blame. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah, I think blaming anyone, certainly that doesn't make sense. It is about availability, and in a lot of cases, inclusivity, right? If you can afford, certain foods at the grocery store, you're going to avoid other things. And it turns out all the cheap foods happen to be, maybe more processed, more sugar, et cetera, et cetera. So it starts to really cross some divides. Why don't you tell me a bit more about the products themselves that you ended up making from this upcycled waste product out of the beer industry?
Yeah. So with COVID, we pivoted into bake at home baking mixes. We also basically everything's changed. So it's like who really gravitates toward the product, I think, as soon as you launch something into market. So we actually have 3 easy to make baking mixes. We asked our customers kind of what's the most common things they'll make at home. We stayed a little bit true to our nature. So the one that we started out as a cookie company. So we do have a chocolate chip cookie mix.
Awesome.
Loaded with a lot of chocolate. It's the #1 ingredient on there. So that's one of the things our customers love. But yeah, cookies just kind of cross cultural boundaries, age boundaries. Everybody loves a good cookie. The next one was a pancake and waffle mix.
Mhm.
It's pretty quick, easy to go to, easy to make. A few steps. People really wanted something simple because our lives have gotten busier and chaotic, and they don't want a ton of ingredients. And the last one is more because it's just like one of the favorites. It's a banana bread. But the combinations of like the sugars from the banana and the upcycled barley flour make for like the most moist banana bread you'll ever have. So it's just kind of an accidental thing we made, and we're just like, okay, banana bread's got to be number 3 because everybody tried it and was like, this is so good. And on like day 2 or 3, it's still just as moist as day 1.
How many did you have to try before you landed on those 3? Were you doing a lot of product development?
So we actually we were going after food service and not being a CPG company before COVID. So we actually got to go back, and it was a lot of reflection when COVID hit around which 3 products we launched. So we basically went back to consumers and the customers we already had and said, and went on customer reviews, like what got the most attention and what could we actually make into a mix. So what would be easy enough, 3 steps or less, because we had a fruit bar, but I'm like, it would be 12 steps for the consumer to make. And we're just like, no, that's too hard.
That's fair. And if you had to kind of crystallize one thing that you and your co-founder are doing with this business that no one else is doing, is there one thing you could point to and say, this is our thing, like no one is doing this is our thing?
In Canada, it's honestly creating this product. Nobody's doing an upcycled baking mix or flour. We have a lot of people who are starting to focus on spent grain and reusing it, but they're putting it directly into fresh, which is what we were doing. So we've kind of taken that next step forward, and we're creating it shelf stable so the consumer can have just as much fun as we did in the first year of our business, trying baking. The one most interesting thing has been parents with their young kids. So it's a couple of steps. It doesn't make a ton of mess, and they get to talk and like teach their kids about food waste. And so that's been like the funnest thing to learn, is these parents who are repeat buying because they're like, oh, my kids are learning these baking skills. They're getting more fiber in their diets, and we're getting like an activity to do together during this chaotic time. So that's been like a really fun story.
I love that. We have 3 small children, and I find it both rewarding and extremely frustrating trying to bake or cook with the kids, because they want to do everything. So that the shorter, like the fewer the steps, the easier the process, the better it goes. So that's great to hear. And I'm sure you need to give a proper presentation, you need to buy some beer so that you can sort of explain like where it comes from. And so, so you have that full journey.
Yeah. Well, we actually have like an interesting market, because we have 2 sides. We have this side who really loves the beer and cookie story. We have a brewery that actually serves the cookies, and they're like sharing topics of customers like dipping their cookie in their beer.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like, instead of milk, I'm like, that's funny. That's a great story. But then we have the other side. We have the moms who are feeding it to kids, and they're like, but is there alcohol in it? So it's this weird story. We have to walk a fine line. We've talked about needing to create a second company altogether to point it at 2 different directions, because it's been fun.
That's amazing. Marc, tell me what's in store for 2022 for you guys.
2022, the biggest thing we want to do is launch a dedicated upcycling facility. So you can imagine probably how hard this is to do. We have about 12 partners that we have to run to. A couple of small businesses have gone under. We've had to like supply chain's been a massive problem. So we want to bring the production of the flour in-house so that we can also branch into other byproducts, and just keep moving forward. And a lot of marketing, which is why we jumped into the Freebruary, because it looked super exciting and we're super happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. I love the sound of, having a facility that you can both simplify your own process, but also having a facility gives you the option to do other things. You can be, processing for other people. Once you have a place, you can warehouse product. You don't have to be always going back to a warehouse or a third party storage or that kind of thing. You can fulfill from your own spot. So that sounds like a great next step for you guys. I'm really happy for you. That's a big jump.
Thanks. Yeah, it is a big jump. We're looking also at like capacity rates, and if we want to get to like 20,000 kilograms, we're like almost at max capacity of what the infrastructure in BC right now can handle. If we launched one facility ourselves, we can upcycle up to 5 million kilos. So it's like
scale starts to really make sense. Yeah.
The scale there, we can partner. We have a couple of businesses who are starting up off the heels of our business. So we have a lady we met 3 or 4 months ago. She's starting to do par-baked pretzels and selling them to pubs throughout Vancouver. So we're starting, like, we've done this for 3 years. Have the business background. A lot of people who get into food don't have that business background. So we try and support them. And our mission is just to like upcycle and fight food waste as much as possible and do it in a very healthy way.
So is she a customer of yours? She's buying the flour from you? Oh, wow. Okay. That's amazing. So there's some vertical.
Yeah. We're supporting her with a bit of business services, some stuff that like we learned the hard way. So it's just like, hey, make sure you do this early on in your business.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's supportive community. That's one thing we've built really well is the BC food community. So Freebruary, I believe, is an Ontario food community thing.
No, it's national. It is national.
That's why
we sort of over index in Ontario a little bit, but yeah, no, there's definitely, it's Victoria, BC to Bedford, Nova Scotia. There's companies from all over. So yeah, we're glad to have you as part of the mix.
No pun intended. We love mixes.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. I would love for you to tell me the website for Susgrainable where everyone can find your products and where to buy them.
Totally. www.susgrainable.ca. We're in a few retailers here in BC, but yeah, the best place to try the initial is the starter pack on the website. You get a little bit of everything. And you won't mind having a second one because these actually make the best gifts ever. People love receiving this for like new homes, new child, all kinds of things.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot, Marc. We'll look for Susgrainable in stores and online, and we're happy to have you as part of Freebruary. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew.